Hey guys, welcome to episode 12 of the Trail Project. Theme of this month seems to be servos, because I'll be replacing the Hitec 646 that I've got in there right now, because I've found out that it's only a 9 kilo servo, which is not enough. Even though it's an ultra torque servo, it is definitely not enough to move these wheels and tyres. I noticed at Braggart Park when I was in the rocks and the wheels were turned, I couldn't actually get any movement in them because the servo is not strong enough. So yeah, I've got a brand new servo to put in today, and I'm going to try and do it without taking an axle off or doing anything like that. I'm going to try and do it as it sits. As you can see, I have actually tidied up the wiring once again. I've moved the battery over to here and moved the electronics to this tray at the back here. So that has all changed, and obviously I've only just done it, so I'm going to be cutting it all off and changing it all again. That receiver was actually loose. That's a surprise. Yeah, so I'm going to unplug it there. I've got to cut that zip tie which is holding all the cables in the middle, and then we can get the servo out. With the wire disconnected, we can undo the 4 screws that mount it onto the axle. Again, trying to do this without taking too much apart. But yeah, when I noticed the wheels were struggling to turn when I was sort of in a bit of articulation, or when the front wheels were pressed against something, I was moving the steer and the wheels weren't moving at all. So I couldn't actually get the truck in the right position, or where I wanted it. So yeah, I knew that the servo wasn't quite strong enough, hence the change to a new one. So this one won't be going to waste though. You'll be finding out where it's going very soon, but yeah, I'm not going to be using this as a spare. This will be going into another RC. But this one has lasted very well. It's not broken at all. Still performing fine, even with the amount of abuse that this truck's been through. So I am happy with it. It's just not strong enough. Even though it was advertised as an ultra torque, it's only 9 kilos, which is not a lot. So there we go. That's those 4 undone, and we should be able to slide this out like that. I am going to be reusing this servo horn. This is the one that the Axial upgrade that I got, because I stripped out the stock plastic one, and I'm hoping that the tooth number is the same on the new servo. I'm pretty sure that it is. It did say on the when I went and selected it, so hopefully it is the same. But this has 3 clamping methods. It's got the main screw that goes into the servo, which is that one there. I have Loctited that one as well. And there's 2 clamping screws. There's one on this side. That's there. And there's one on the other side as well. That basically secures this servo very tightly onto the splines on the servo. Make sure it's got a good firm grip and that it's not going to strip out. And off we go. So that is Hitec HS646WP waterproof servo. So not going to go to waste. It will be used in another RC, but for these purposes it's not strong enough. To replace it, we have this from PowerHD. Now, I have had a PowerHD servo before. It's actually in the Mini, but I've never actually had the chance to use it because I've never ran the Mini before. So yeah, it will be a first time using a PowerHD properly. So it's the LW20MG, so it is metal geared again. You kind of need it when you've got this sort of torque and this sort of application, and it is waterproof. And most importantly, it is a 20 kilo servo, which is really, really, really strong. I saw a lot of guys running these in their trucks at Braggart Park in the last trailing video, and they seem to be very popular, and they are fairly cheap compared to the Hitec one that I've got. This was a little bit cheaper, and it's a 20 kilo servo. So yeah, I'm going to give this a try. It isn't particularly fast. Got the specs on the side here. So 20 kilos at 6.6 volts. And it's also 0.16 seconds at 6.6 volts, so it is fairly slow, but that doesn't really matter with crawling. It makes it look more scale anyway. But it's 20 kilos, it's waterproof, and it's fairly cheap, so can't really go wrong there. So get this installed and we'll be done for today. I made a bit of a mistake. Oops, the servo horn on there is a 24 tooth, so this Axial one here, and that's a 25 tooth spline. Oopsies. So I'm going to have to use the plastic servo horn just there, and I hope it doesn't strip out. The only reason why the last one did, the stock Axial one did, is because I jumped this truck whilst I was turning and it just kinked it too much and it stripped out the splines. So I won't be jumping it too much, but I'm just going to have to be a bit careful until I get an aluminium one. So that one's going to have to travel with the Hitec servo. Before you do any sort of servo installation or servo horn installation, you're going to want to turn your truck on and just make sure you centre the servo, make sure it's working before you start putting it in, just to doubly make sure it's working and that the splined part there is centred before you put it in. So I'm going to turn the truck on. There you go, so you heard it move, so it wasn't actually centred. So now it's centred. You can see it's working, which is perfect. So we can now put it in knowing that it's centred and that it works. So I've got the servo horn on with the stock Phillips screw. I'll change that for a hex head when I've got the aluminium servo horn. That's just for now. And I've drilled out that hole just a bit bigger so I can actually fit the nut and bolt that's on the servo arm. With it being black instead of that really bright sky blue that the other servo was, it'll be a bit more discreet. So I am always going to keep the servo on the axle because that's the best place for it. People do put it on the chassis, but it means doing pan hard rods and 3 links and or whatever, and you'll always have a bit of bump steer with the steering, and this way it's a lot stronger and it's just it's better for performance sake. It doesn't look as good, obviously, but for performance sake it is much better, so I'm just going to keep it on the axle. With the servo mounted on, we can actually get the servo arm attached. Again, I'm mounting it on the lowest hole on the servo horn. If you start mounting it up really close to the splined part of the servo, closer to the pivot point, you're going to increase the strain on the actual servo itself. You'll increase the speed of the steering, but the strain on the servo will be more. So mounting it at the bottom, the speed will be slower, but you'll get more power and you'll put less strain on the servo itself. With the servo plugged in and on, much stronger. Before, the wheels wouldn't even turn with the old servo. They wouldn't even turn on flat. So even if we're getting that much movement, it's good. So yeah, new servo's in, happy with that. So I'm going to finish off all the wiring, and that is it for this episode of the Trail Project. Thank you very much for watching. That's the end of this servo being in the SCX10. It's going into another project which you'll be seeing very, very soon on the channel. I will be doing a full RC collection update on every single RC that I own, just to give you an update on what's happening with it, what's new with it, and when you're going to be seeing it next, basically. So yes, thank you very much for watching this episode of the Trail Project. If you want to check out the Facebook and Twitter pages, links are down below in the description box, and I shall see you next time on RC Projects. Bye.